Welcome to iPen Podcast, Interviews and Conversations. Here we bring entrepreneurs and their business to their audience and communities as well as ours. We welcome and connect with them to share who they are and what they do. Authors, entrepreneurs, we extend the invitation to promote your business here on our podcast and in iPen Magazine. Your article, your story, your promotions, how you can connect with others, a new audience, a quarterly magazine presented online for all to view and subscribe to. For articles, ads, and subscriptions, please contact ipendesigns@gmail.com. For your viewing, you can see past articles, past interviews on www.nanettembuchanan.com. Welcome to the show. Good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Nanette Buchanan, and this is iPen Vision's podcast, Interviews and Conversations. It's another Monday night, but this one is a little different, people. We're closing out the year with a bang. We want you to have a great holiday season, as we will not be on for Christmas week, and we will not be on for the New Year's week. This is our last show of the year. We will be back in January, whatever that first Monday is. I should have had that already. I'll have that before the end of the show to make sure I let you know. We will be back in January. January 5th. January 5th is the first Monday in January. And we will be back on that Monday to celebrate with you and bring in a new year, new visions, new goals, and new prosperity for everyone, spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally. We want to make sure that everybody's good. So going into this season, I want you to understand about the blessings that you are about to receive as the blessings you already have. And that's what the celebration is all about. Now, of course, I have to bring one of my blessings to the stage, my co-host, Felice Reeves. I want to thank her for the year that we've had and be blessed in the next year coming up. So, Felice, hello. How are you, sweetie? How are you?
I'm great, blessed, wonderful, just joyous to be here. But you know what? Just a little sad that I didn't let this be on my mind, that we should have did a best of the year. Or maybe we could do it in January. You know how they
best of the year. Yeah, best of the year. What we did during the year.
What the best is, but
you know what? Maybe between the two holidays we'll come up with something and
we should. And just to say that the next time I see you, I will be in Puerto Rico.
You thought that was funny? You thought that's funny that you're leaving me?
We're ending with joy. I'm not leaving you. I mean, You're all the way in North Carolina. I'm in Dallas, so
yeah. But at least I could have said, "Look, let me take a ride." I can't even take a ride to Puerto Rico.
Well, sure you can, but it'll have to be a plane ride or a
boat ride. Well, no, I take it back. You have now given me a vacation spot.
That is correct, Nanette. Look at this in the right way,
in the right perspective. Yeah, I'll put it in the right perspective. I don't know if my husband is going to like it, but I'm going to let him know.
James is good. James.
Yeah, he'll be good. You think so?
Good. Yeah,
I don't plan on telling him I'm coming.
Oh, okay. No, he's such a good cook.
We need him. Oh, okay.
We need him, or he can come.
He can come. Okay.
He can come because he's good. No, in all seriousness, even though all of that was serious, and then I just want to thank you for once again allowing me to share this valuable platform and get to know these amazing people and talk to them and get to have them return.
Well, you are so welcome, my dear. You know, you have been an intricate part of this. So, I mean, we're going on to our next year.
We are.
Start a whole year. And by saying that, the guest that we have tonight has been on before. I think she was like in our beginnings, so we are so happy to bring her back.
Mhm.
There's nothing like old friends,
That's
you
right.
know, other than old wine. Old wine is good
Yeah.
too, but old friends, bringing in old friends and people that you know and watching them grow
Yeah.
and watching what they're doing and how they're doing
Mhm.
and what we expect from them in
Mhm.
their growth. So we want to give her accolades
Yeah.
tonight, and especially her being the banging guest of the end of the year, because she's
Yes.
got some good information and some good things that are going on with her. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring to the stage Joy Outlaw, aka Inanna Joy. And I want you to understand that the growth of this young woman has been a blessing, not
Mhm.
only for her, but a blessing for me, because I was like, ooh, wait, wow, have we grown into self? So I
Love
want
it.
to bring her to the stage so we can talk to her and find out all about what she's been up to. So please welcome Miss Joy Outlaw. Hey, lady,
Good evening. How is everyone? How you
how are
doing?
you?
Great
I'm
and
doing
super
very
excited.
well.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm good. It's been busy. I think I told you ladies before, I have two teenagers and got projects going on and all of that. But at the end of the day, it's a good kind of busy.
It's a
So,
good kind of busy.
yeah.
So what I want to do first before we get into who, what, when, where, why, and everything that you got going on, other than the two teenagers, because right now I'm mad at teenagers right now. Them teenagers and them crossovers. I talk about my grandchildren all the time, and
Mhm.
Christmas is the pits with
Oh
them,
my goodness.
because they're here, there, everywhere, and you can't grab them by the neck and tell them no, stop by the house first,
Mhm.
before you do all of that. So I'm anti grandchildren today. So
They asking for those big ticket items now that they're
oh
old, right?
no, we raised them right. They don't
Okay.
ask. They don't ask for that. But now their expectations are
Mhm.
there. But they
Yeah.
don't ask. They don't. They
Right,
don't.
right, right, right.
All right. There you go.
If any, the biggest thing they always ask for is my husband to cook, just like Felice
Okay.
did.
Well, see,
Other than that, yeah, other than that, they're not, they always say is Poppy cooking. That's it. But other than that, they're pretty cool with just, and they're now getting into bring grandma and granddad a gift.
That's good.
very good.
Now they're getting into that age where
Mm.
they
They got to
remember,
give back now.
hey, I
Yeah.
gotta, I gotta, I gotta get them something, even if it's
Mhm.
something they already have 1,000 of.
Right.
Mhm.
I just got to
Yeah.
get them something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they are getting into that age. I can say that.
Mhm.
And they are into phone calls. So you
Oh,
can't ask for everything.
that's
So,
That's
right.
good.
That's right.
but little said about them and much said about you. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself because we don't know what you do and who you do, and well, we don't want to know much of that, but we want to know all about you and who you are in these days and
Or
times,
maybe on
because
the
as I said,
live.
yeah,
We get
right,
into the who later. Okay.
yeah, we'll talk about that later.
That's
look,
okay.
look.
I know.
But the thing about it is that we do want to know, update us, who
Mhm.
who who is
Yay.
Joy Outlaw these days?
All right. Well, as you've heard, my government name is Joy Outlaw, but I have in the last few years chosen a new pen name, Inanna Joy. And that's because, I started out doing fiction writing. I started out, oh, wow, back as a teenager. That was when I first started writing, and it was more of the cathartic process of journaling and trying to figure out my life. And I discovered that I really enjoyed turning some of the experiences that I had and that I observed in other people's lives into stories, into adventure stories. And so I started writing adventure novels. And at the time, using Joy Outlaw was the perfect thing because a lot of people have told me it sounds almost like a superhero name. And so I said, okay, why not create a
Mhm.
story about an adventurous heroine who runs around the world, getting into adventures. And I don't know, why don't I make her a hit woman? Ultimately, her journey leads her to becoming a hit woman. And that was the Jane Luck Adventure series that I started out. That's the series that really kind of, I guess, solidified me as an author. I decided somewhere along that journey to go the independent route because I like the idea of being able to chart my own course. I like the idea of being able to learn the ins and outs of the business so that even if I did ultimately decide to work with a publishing house, I would at least know what's going on. I would have an understanding of how a work is supposed to be published, how it's supposed to look, what the marketing process and everything is supposed to be like. So that's been a long journey of learning. And I've met so many wonderful people along the way, just like you two ladies, going to a lot of book expos and whatnot, and speaking engagements and things like that. It's been a journey of, oh, wow. Well, I first published in 2016, but I've been writing since about 2007. So almost a 20-year journey. Recently, though, I decided to take on the pen name and the stage name Inanna Joy because I decided to make a shift from only fiction writing into self-help. I have a YouTube channel as well, and I've shifted into self-help because I recognize that there is a need for voices from people who have had an array of experiences when it comes to love and marriage and trying to help men and women of today see eye to eye. There's a lot of combative discourse that's going on out there, and I'm looking for ways to bring us together.
Mm-hmm.
That's what.
Well, I commend you. I really do, because as a writer, me being a writer myself, as a writer, we go through so many different thoughts and the thought process. And 1 minute we're devotional, 1 minute we're inspirational, 1 minute we're tell that story, 1 minute we're go in the hood, 1 minute we're going to church, 1 minute, our writing, 1 minute do poetry, 1 minute do journal. We go through so many different hills and valleys that we find ourselves picking up people from all walks of life and picking up people from all different areas. So my first question to you is, being that way, being the way that you are, and being able to pick up along the way. And I'm so happy that you mentioned that although you went through the self-publishing route, you still sought the information to make sure that, going on your own route, you needed to know what the business was. Because a lot of people just think that, we used to, well, I'm not going to say you, but me, because I'm a little older. But it used to be a time where someone could write something on a card and say that's my stuff, or put it on a t-shirt, and it would be, oh wow, so and so made these shirts. Now you got to get a copyright, you got to get a trademark, you got to get a R, for registered work, and you got to do all of these things to protect your property, to protect that you did write it, to protect that you do own it, to protect that someone else won't take it and make millions off of what you said. So I am so happy that you mentioned just the fact that even though you transitioned, you still had to learn the background of it. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to teach authors and the audience that comes on, that we have to protect our business just like any other business. Just like, if you went in and built a brick and mortar and were selling cakes, you'd have to have certain things for that bakery and certain things for, the goods that you sell, and certain, funny story before I go into the next question. We went we Christmas shopping. We go into a store and we're talking to a lady and we're checking out fragrances. And she's like, I do my own fragrances, but I can't promote here because I work here. First sign. Okay. You work here, but you promote your own fragrances. Okay. She says, I even make my own toilet paper and my own paper towels. I don't buy any of those things anymore. So as me and my girlfriend left, I didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. We both got in the car, and almost at the same time, he said, where's she getting cotton from that she knows is biodegradable? You know, like, it's just the point.
That's a
Just
lie.
just the point that, like, where's she doing that at? Where's she pressing off these paper towels?
Said they were made of cotton, though.
You know what I mean?
Got some wood pulp and patted it.
Where's she growing these trees at? Where's she, it's just the point.
You got a whole mill in the backyard.
Yeah. Where, so
Mhm.
we heard the soap, we heard the fragrances, and we knew, there's people that do that. But now, because we didn't bite into that, you want to go into something. I do all household products. Lady, you can't do all household products without some kind of there's some kind of background and coverage that you need for that. So I'm so happy that you mentioned that for the writers, that be real when you go into your business. Be real about your business.
You got to know all the different aspects, and you can't just leave it up to somebody else. Even if even if you're outsourcing your editing, you're hiring consultants to help you along. You have to understand what that process looks like. When it comes to the documentation, the copyright, the ISBN that you have to purchase, knowing that Bowker is the only legitimate,
Only
organization through which you can purchase your
Yes.
ISBN, things like that. You really have to take it upon yourself to become the researcher, because y'all know a large part of 90% of what we do as writers is the preparation and the marketing.
Exactly.
Getting the business aspect of it, if you want anybody besides, your immediate friends and family to read your book.
Exactly. And you don't want it to be where you've done all of what you think you were supposed to have done.
Mhm.
Right.
Only to have the legitimacy taken away from it.
Mhm.
You think you're legit, and then here comes one person who knows that, hey, you can't do it that way, and someone else is going to do it for you. Especially, and I want to say this to the audience more or less, especially in this day of AI. Be careful. They steal everything. Everything. They market and steal everything. And they have lawyers.
That's right.
They have a support that's going to back them up after they take your stuff, because your stuff is not right. So be very careful, be very careful about it. And they're not just taking it from the independent publishers. They're not just taking it from the independent authors. They're just like they started out in Hollywood with the scripts and everything. They're taking it from people that have legitimate, solid background. Solid, I listened to a thing with Stephen King a couple of weeks ago, and it went right into James Patterson making the same complaint, right into J.K. Rowling making the same complaint. So they don't care whose stuff they're taking. They're looking to make the money off of how your stuff is made. So be careful and protect yourself. So with that being said, in your bio, and I'm only going by your bio, I'm not even going to go by the fact that I kind of know you. I ain't bringing out no personal stuff. Me and you.
All right.
Okay. But in your bio, you said this was the definition in your bio. Not so humble opinions.
Not so humble.
A social critic and a determined seeker.
Absolutely.
Madam, if you may, could you just break that down in parts slowly so that the people in the back understand?
That's right. And a couple of us in the front too.
We want to know. We want to know. And believe me when I say this, because a lot of people, and especially Felice, she tells me this all the time. I'm direct. I'm a straight shooter. I sometimes have to take a curve for myself
Right.
before I say something. I'm just that person. Hey, I know what the not so humble opinion
Oh,
is.
yeah.
I know what the social critic is because I can turn you off right away. I kind of know. But there's people out there that if you're a determined seeker, I know in my heart of hearts that does not mean you're seeking the negative, that
Right.
you do not go about seeking to be the not so humble opinion or not to be the social critic. So give us an explanation of exactly how deep it goes and why it's got to go that deep.
I'm gonna start with the social critic part because we live in the age of social media, and anytime there is some sort of celebrity news, that's probably one of the first examples that we're most familiar with of people giving social commentary. We look at the circumstances that a particular person is going through, if they're involved in some sort of a scandal or whatever, and we pick apart that situation based on some of the common social ills that may be coming to play. That's what I think of when I think of a social critic. It's not someone who's looking to be critical necessarily, but you're giving critique. You're giving, you're providing discourse about different issues that affect everyday people. Because I think most of us are seekers to a certain extent. How determined we are varies from person to person, but we're here because we're seeking information. We're here because we're seeking insight, or we're seeking community. We're having this conversation right now because maybe we're seeking to understand each other, or we're curious about one another's work. In that curiosity is some level of seeking. I call myself a determined seeker because I came to the understanding a long time ago that it would be very arrogant of me to assume that I have just about anything figured out in this life. There is always someone that I meet who can teach me more. There's always the opportunity for me to learn more. The older I get, the less I realize I know, no matter how much I'm seeking to learn and understand. And that to me opens up a whole world, a whole universe of possibilities, because there's always more to discover. I talk a lot about relationships in my work, and one place where I feel that shows up a lot and where it gives us a lot of hope is that even in relationships with people who we feel we've already figured out and we know and love, things can change, their interests can change, they can grow and evolve, and we have a new opportunity to get to know them all over again.
Yeah.
So that's where I think all of us should have some level of, being a determined seeker. It's about always being determined to learn more
Mm-hmm.
and being willing to humble yourself and realize that you don't know. Now, where the not so humble part comes in is where I enjoy expressing my opinions and sharing my opinions as I learn, and I'm willing to engage with other people and admit where I'm wrong. But I
Yeah.
think that it's important for us to come hard, to come forcefully, and to come boldly when we feel strongly about something, because that's how we create change. That's how we build. That's how we develop. That's how we grow. Can't shy away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd like to throw in this word in here, what you just said, but understanding, right? Because
Absolutely.
yeah, so you're seeking to understand a your point of view because we have it, but sometimes we don't have a deep understanding of it, right? We have it, but and or from someone else's perspective of understanding how do you get there? What's on your mind? Tell me what led you to this, especially when it's I don't want to say in alignment, but my point of view, how it's like wow. I'm thinking on the spectrum of all things. People are such a spectrum. There's this personality over here, and then there's this
Mm-hmm.
personality over there, and it's like
Right.
how do you like that and how do you like that And I
Mhm.
look at that, especially I've been talking to my daughter here today, and just, in the family dynamic, it's like we grew up in the exact same household.
And it can be so vastly different between the two people from the same DNA. Yeah.
But in that the experience was different, even though we came up in the exact same household. I have
Mhm.
siblings that had different experiences than
Mhm.
myself,
Right.
or the same experience, but given in two different ways. And we all are receptors from our standpoint of anything. So yeah,
Mhm.
I like that what you said that, but I was like, a lot of times we need to get to an understanding. Knowledge is great, but seeking understanding, because I got a whole bunch of people in my life that have a whole bunch of knowledge.
Yeah. Not
Right.
seeking wisdom. You got to take it deeper and go to the wisdom.
Yes.
Well, not only that, I think the understanding comes with a compromise. And a
Mm,
lot of times people aren't willing to compromise. They're not willing to compromise their feelings. They're not willing to compromise what they think is right. If they're stand, 10 toes down on what they think is right, regardless to, them seeing it, them understanding what your feelings are, they still are going to walk off with the idea that their view is a better view.
mm-hmm,
And we sometimes have to go into our not so humble opinion and check that, because of the simple fact that it's not so much that we experienced it different, it's just the fact that I can allow the understanding of there are bleached white eggs, there are free range eggs, there
mm-hmm,
are eggs you die and eggs you don't die. There's different things that go on with it being that way, and we don't always allow
mm-hmm,
the voice of everyone so that we can get that understanding clearly.
mm, yeah.
A lot of times we get, like you said, social media has diluted some of the messages that are really strong messages. They really have a
Right.
base, they have a meaning, they have substance, and you get one person
Mm-hmm,
that says something off kiltered, and
mm-hmm,
that's the rest of the message. The message goes away from there, and now you got to seek. Well, what is this? Can't be true. Let me find out the truth, or let me find out where did this come from,
Mhm.
because the
There was
message
that one piece that was pulled out.
one
The rest of the
piece
context is gone. Yeah.
is gone. So now the whole stream that goes behind it is not based on the content that was meant.
mm-hmm,
And it reminds me of that old game. What do they call it? Telephone, where you pass to
yeah.
pass the message. By the time it gets to the end,
Mm-hmm,
it's
yeah.
not even the message that was going on.
Mm-hmm,
We used to we used to do it to our gym teacher, and by the time it got to the end, we would all say, "Is it time for gym to be over?" Like, never mind. The message that started out was nowhere near about
right.
gym being over. But by the time it got to the end, that was the message. Hey,
Mm-hmm,
we getting out of gym early.
mm-hmm,
Something really off kiltered. But that's what I think the
yeah.
social media
Mm-hmm,
has become. So bless you for being that critic that says that, because a lot of times people don't want to even. I've seen people actually take social media and attach it to their lives.
Oh,
absolutely. And I'm just thinking that, Joy, that's a full-time job.
Yeah, yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
There is a
especially
full
especially when you're trying to help somebody. When you're trying to help somebody out, or you're trying to give them a reflective view, when they
Mhm.
attach to that social media, like, they gotta have it.
all the information that is put out there, and
Hmm.
it's stuff. Yeah, I really don't want to call it information. It's
No,
just stuff, right?
it's
And
in for whoever listens.
yeah,
Exactly.
through that, true that. And
That's what it is, because it
I'm
And
can
here
be
that's
with you, and we've talked about this. Is context is everything, right?
right.
absolutely.
It could be
And
information, because
yeah,
it'll
And that's
make you
the
do
issue
things that you don't want to do.
oh,
because so much of it is put out for quick consumption.
Sure.
So a lot of people are catering to that quick consumption, ideal. And
Yeah.
so some people don't even give the context.
Right.
And then
Right.
some people do give the
Exactly.
context, and people have those short attention spans. So they might fly off the handle about something was said in a video, and it was resolved within that video had they had the patience and the
Right,
attention span to listen
right,
to it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
there's a whole plethora of there's a whole lot of foolishness can
Right.
yes,
Right.
come into
yes,
play.
yes.
A
And
whole
the
lot
thing
of
about
food.
it is, I
Mhm.
think that in us talking about what you do as a person that tries to expand one's knowledge of what they're stepping into or stepping on or stepping away from, there's a thing about life awareness and reflections. How do you see that fit in to the social critic part? Because my opinion has always been, you read, you digest, and then you think
Right.
before you do. It
Absolutely.
seems like people just look at, first off, half of them don't read all of it.
That's the thing. They
You
don't
know,
even take the time. They don't even take the time to finish the first sentence
Right.
before they got something to say.
right, they're not reading all of it.
Yeah.
They're not using it as a reflection, as opposed to they talking about me. You know, that everything is not personal. Some things reflect on other people more so than they shine on you. So how do we get that to be the life awareness and reflections thing as a part of our social environment?
I think that the best way is to demonstrate it, by putting out quality material and doing the best that we can to show what it means to take information, digest it properly, take some time to let it marinate, and then have our discourse or share our opinions. I do a lot of research. I've been doing a lot of research recently about the late Bell Hooks. She was actually she was a self-described critic, social critic, and author as well, who wrote a lot about love and Black male-female relationships and just relationships, romantic relationships between men and women in general. Some of her later works were the greatest inspiration for some of the work that I'm doing now. And she was such a thoughtful person. I think about her and Toni Morrison and women like Audre Lorde, who took the time to study the women in particular who came before them, who were doing the work that they did, so that they could learn about the issues that those women were trying to address in their work. And they tracked those same social issues over time in order to figure out, okay, well, how is this circumstance still relevant to my life? They took the time to study, and then they gave themselves time to experience some life for themselves. So the work that I'm putting out now was 20 years in the making, because had I tried to write a book about love when I was 20 years old, before I went through 10 years of marriage, before I had children, before I, entered into perimenopause,
Right,
before I had all these life
A whole thing
experiences,
right there.
right.
it just would not have.
And that's funny that you say that, because I remember, again, a little older, but I remember Dr. Ruth. I don't know if you guys remember.
I remember.
And that little old lady used to talk sex off the hook before we even knew that we could talk sex off the hook.
Yeah, right.
But I was so taken aback when I found out that she did not have any children. She did not have that type of relationship. I don't even know if the man she periodically spoke of, I don't even know if she was married to him.
Yeah.
Well, none of those are requirements for having sex.
Exactly. But the thing about
right.
it is,
She had the life experience.
I thought back then that she was this married woman who had these different experiences prior to marriage, but that she had finally settled down. And these were the things she was telling young women. You're going to go through this. You're going to have these problems. You're going to do this. And then when I found out, I was like, how's she telling somebody? First off, it was so like mind blowing to me back
Mhm.
then that this woman just was saying things that every woman was aghast about. Oh God, and she had no experience with children, no
Mhm.
experience with a marriage, no experience with. I was like, well, has she ever really been in love? What we following?
Not the requirement for
Exactly.
Not the
Exactly.
requirement for sex. Not the
That's right.
requirement
She
for
knew
sex.
about that
sex.
though.
Yeah, yeah.
She knew about that. Yeah, yeah. And that was the thing that they were hushing her about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Don't say
Mhm.
that. You can't
Right.
openly
Yeah.
say this. You can't openly say that. So
Mhm.
sometimes life awareness, you have to be mindful of who is aware and
That's
who
right.
is not aware.
Yeah.
Who's stepping on their own toes while they're trying to, get you to step right. You know,
Exactly.
do you really, have you experienced any of this? Have you
Mhm.
done any of
Absolutely.
this? And that goes into, like you said, your spiritual footprint. So
Mhm.
explain to me what. Okay, we all know what a footprint is. Let's not, be that naive.
Mhm.
But we all know that footprints have different patterns. And sometimes we follow the footprint of one and veer off to the footprint of another. But when we're talking about changing our own footprint, when we're talking about becoming spiritually mindful
Mhm.
of our footprint, exactly, tell us what that is. Tell us what you have done to say, hey, I want to expand your spiritual footprint because I've already done mine.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, this goes back to what I said earlier about coming to the realization, probably, I would say, shortly after college, when I was in my 20s, coming to the realization that for me, it felt like one of the most arrogant things that I, as a person, could do would be to assume that I had God figured out, and that point in my life,
Oh, excuse me.
you know, at that point in my life, I had been following a particular spiritual path that I was
Mhm,
taught, which is what a lot of us do.
Mhm.
It
mhm,
had served me quite well in a lot of ways, and it had limited me in a lot of ways.
Sure.
And once I got to the point where I was willing to use the brain that God gave me and the critical thinking skills that God gave me to embark on a more authentic spiritual path, then I was
mhm,
able to, I guess, expand my understanding of what I needed spiritually
Mhm.
and actually do the work to develop a deeper relationship with, my spiritual practice at that point. Since
mhm,
then, it's been a matter of just remaining authentic, remaining true to that path. And I would say that it probably has created a direct line to my destiny because before
mhm.
then, I didn't really have an understanding of what I should be writing about. I
Sure.
was I was doing the thing that felt cathartic. I was experimenting. I was trying to figure out, where I should be, and I was learning and enjoying that process. But I think that along with the maturity, the maturation process of having had some life experiences and been a
Mhm,
few places, done a
mhm.
few things.
That's
Okay,
right.
now, yeah, part of the blessing of that process was coming to an understanding of, okay, there are certain spiritual ideas that seem to resonate more with who I actually am now that I've had a chance to choose this for myself,
Sure.
and that certainly informs the journey that I'm on now as a writer.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Well,
that's so
go ahead.
interesting.
Mhm.
I have several prayer calls, but this morning we're talking about it prayer calls, and we're talking about holiness. And the thing of it is that there's a mindset, right? And there was an example given about if you wear white clothes, you don't want them to get dirty, right? So
Right.
that's the
Mhm,
mindset of you have white on and you don't want that to get dirty. And so just the analogy of that is that but it has to be in you and innately you don't want this thing to get dirty. And I was telling them in that analogy, I was like, yeah, because you have kids and when you dress them up in white, they could give a flip about whether it gets dirty or not.
Exactly.
Don't
They
get them
having
dirty.
fun.
Don't get them dirty.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
for the most part, if they obey, it's because we're telling them don't do it, and there's a consequence that from us if you do that, right? But then again, understanding for yourself what that means, right? So
and it's so important. It's so important, like you said, to wait until you become spiritually aware. You can't become spiritually aware through someone else telling.
That's right.
That's right.
You got to experience some things. You got to see it for
You have to
yourself.
make that footprint. You have to make that step. You
Mm-hmm.
got to, because like I said, I grew up Catholic church, Catholic background, and it was basically for school.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the religious background. It had to do with that's a better schooling. You're more advanced in the public school learning. So we're going to have to put you in this school so that you can get what you need to progress educationally.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, get married and everything. Got married in a Baptist church because that's what my husband was. But the thing about it was that I had not thought about the religious spiritual workings because I had been in both churches. So I understood the following of both churches. Well, when I had kids, my son broke it down to me real simple. I, asked him, hey, what did you learn today in church? And he said, Ma, they only go, oh. It was like, is that all you got?
Here's a break it right down.
I was like, okay, so you did not hear, and it was Father's Day. So they're talking about fathers and boys growing into men. And I'm thinking at 9 years old, he'll get some of the message, He said, all they said was, oh. I said, oh no. So of course, I got to be more conscious of changing the church to fit, where they could learn and they could understand. I got to go to a church where it's not so much me understanding, but them understanding to create that spiritual footprint. And I guess that's what I mean, by, you can't create it. You have to evolve into it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Takes time. And you have to be willing to seek wisdom, seek information. You can't just go by what somebody else told you.
And I don't think that has an age. I don't think that has an age on it. I don't think that your awareness has a time, because I feel like that you have an internal purpose that's already been set.
Right.
You have a timing that has already been given for you to become aware of who you are and where you are spiritually.
That's
right. So how in your working do you expand another's footprint? How do you get them to understand that they need that expansion?
Well, one thing that I try to be careful about is honing in on the right audience. My goal is never to try to convince somebody who's off in left field of anything, because that's part of my philosophy is we'll talk a little bit more about the book that I have coming up. In it, I talk about my Just Own You philosophy. It's named after me. It's an acronym, JOY, Just Own You, because I don't have control over somebody else's thoughts and their evolutionary process. So what I try to do is I try to connect with people who are already resonating with the things that I'm saying, and they need a little bit of help along the journey. Now, if somebody else hears what I have to say and they're not in agreement with it, but there's something that sparks their curiosity, absolutely, I'm interested in engaging in productive, respectful discourse, even if we disagree. But it's a matter of, locking into that, even if it's just a little crack, that opening that somebody has, if they have a little bit of an opening to what I have to say, then I can help them as they take the initiative to expand their spiritual footprint, or, their psychological or emotional footprint.
So what do you do to get them to understand that sometimes self-destruction and
Mm.
reinvention is the start?
Yeah,
That's where you got to start. You might have to get rid of some of your habits. You might have to get rid of some of your dislikes or likes.
right.
You might have to get rid of some of your friends. You might have to, reattach yourself to something entirely different.
That's right.
How do we, and I say we because a lot of times in my writing, people come to me and say that story was about me and I don't know what to do about that story. And I can't even express to them where I got it from. It may very well have been just for them. But the thing about it is I don't take ownership of it because God gives me the words to write.
Right.
So I don't always know how the story is going to turn because if I stop at chapter 4 and it ain't until 3-4 months later where I pick up on chapter 5, that's because this pause was in my spirit. I have to go with my writing according to how it's given to me.
That's right.
So the self-destruction and reinvention is not the same as just writing a story.
Absolutely not.
How do we convince people that, I'm asking this because, I have a book about, mindset madness. Hey, you got to be able to change your mind in some of these things and reinvent yourself. So how do we get them to understand that?
I think that we have to speak to the pain points that people are experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, unfortunately, we are not driven by the things that make us happy or the things, that are going good in our lives, but we're knocked off our feet and into action by the things that make us uncomfortable. And that's a part of this self-destruction or self-deconstruction process.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's about helping people to 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 see how the pathway of whatever behaviors they're engaging in led to whatever they're experiencing that's uncomfortable, and just
Oh, no, no, no. You
gently
can't be
redirecting.
telling people that. Oh, no,
You
you're
gonna
not
make them
telling
mad.
people
You,
that.
they're gonna get upset, and
Oh,
they
no,
may
no,
even
no.
blame you. They may even
Yes.
blame you.
That's why I'm saying, oh, no, 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 you're
Mhm.
not telling them that now.
That's
Look,
where you got to stand on business. Because
wait.
that's if they really have any desire to change or to experience anything better at all,
Mm-hmm.
that's the truth that's the first truth that any of us has to face is
So
okay.
in short, you're saying you're handing them a mirror? Is that what
Pretty
you're
much. There you go.
mm-hmm,
That's
mm-hmm.
right. Let's go on and pick them greens out your teeth. Here's the mirror. You got a lip ball up here. Let me help you see it.
Let
Here's
me
the
help you
mirror.
see this. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So you're telling them the reinvention and the self-destruction. So what advice do you give them that haven't discovered who they are?
The first thing that I tell people who are interested in developing themselves, understanding themselves better so that they can grow, one of the first things I tell them is to get quiet. You have to turn off,
Mm.
take some time to turn off the noise. If it's the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
maybe do a fast. Even though I'm not, I don't consider myself a religious person in the traditional sense. I do have certain spiritual practices, and weekly fasting is one of them. That's a way that I turn off the television. I turn off the sweets and some of the things that I have a little sweet tooth for. And it
Mm-hmm.
quiets my mind, it quiets my body, it forces me to feel whatever uncomfortable things I'm feeling. It forces me to get out of my usual type A go mindset. And it forces me to hear what the spirit is saying. It forces me to rest,
Mm-hmm.
because that is the only way that we can really hear ourselves think, especially in this current age where there are
Yeah.
so many things constantly bombarding us. We have these phones that we're walking around with, and because we have this communication device that allows for immediate communication, everybody expects us to be immediately available. And sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
have to put that do not disturb on, you have to shut off the noise, and sit somewhere and just
Mhm.
allow your thoughts to flow so that you can figure out, what am I saying to myself? What is my self-talk? What do
Mhm.
I really believe about this particular difficult circumstance that I'm experiencing? I encourage people to journal as well. Everybody's not a journaler, but sometimes, when people experience the practice for the first time, they at least recognize, okay, once I stop worrying about whether or not somebody's going to see what I'm writing down and I just let my thoughts flow, I'm
Mhm.
surprised about what comes out because I wasn't allowing myself to face it before. So
And you
it,
know what? I think too, I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of what we change in our daily habits or in our life, life as it goes along, and as we think we mature, as we think we become this individual who's traveling their own path, walking in their own footsteps, we really, really, really have some people that we are surrounded by, people that we have met, people that we know, people that we love, that have actually been knocked backwards because they pay so much attention to what others say around them. You have an experience of your own, you do your own thing, but yet you're looking for someone to either clap it up or give you accolades or tell you that that's the best thing ever, or you get so disheartened when someone tells you it's not the best, and it's not, and it should not be, and you shouldn't say this and you shouldn't say that. I'll never forget, and Felice knows that I talked about it so much when it happened. When I first found out I had cancer, one of the things that I did was I wanted to know everybody that had cancer. Hey, y'all going through this? And it wasn't so much knowing about what cancer they had, but just the fact that some of the comments that I was getting from doctors and nurses and people from the health field and people from the insurance field, how they telling you this and how they not telling you that, and how, who's not speaking up, and how do they think they could get away with this, and okay, who else is going through this? And silence. No one is saying that they're having this problem. And I was expressing the fact that I know that if I'm having this problem, there's got to be more people that have gone through this and have said this, but no one wanted to speak up because no one wanted anyone else to know that they had a problem. Listen, if I was cross-eyed and needed glasses, okay, cross-eyed, need glasses, somebody help me get the right glasses. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a problem sharing something that I think we all go through or someone can help you with. But if you
that's right.
keep your mouth closed, as my grandmother used to say, you can't get fed if you don't speak up.
That's
You
right.
hungry, you hungry and don't want to say anything, or you want to be cute
Yeah.
standing
Yeah.
around the table when I tell you serve yourself.
Mhm.
That's right.
Okay, you ain't gonna get
Yeah.
a biscuit if you standing over there and I see biscuit crumbs all over your face. You need I see a little
Mhm.
bubble over your head saying, I want a biscuit. Come on.
Mhm.
If this is what you
Mhm.
want, you
That's
got
Yeah.
to
right.
speak up. You got
Right.
to
Right.
say something.
A closed
So
mouth don't get fed. Right.
That's it.
exactly. How is it that we're all going through some type of problem that
Mhm.
yearns for a solution?
That's
Mhm.
right.
And there are people who will give you a solution, but they're
Mhm.
scared that you're going to critique them.
Mhm.
When I tell you, look, mix some mud and salt and slap it on that scar, and you'll be
Mhm.
surprised. You won't even have to worry about it the next day. Next thing I know, it's on social media. Look, she crazy. She telling you slap mud and this on. You know what I mean? Now
Mhm.
I'm not willing to give you any more information for
Mhm.
anything else that comes up because you talked
Mhm.
about me so bad
Right.
about this remedy that my great, and they didn't have medication back then. So
Mhm.
yes, they did slap mud and they did do things that we would look at and go, why would you do that? You know,
Mhm. Right.
there's
And
there's
and that's all
progressive
they do
help.
is ask the question, why would you do that? As opposed
Mhm.
to,
Ridiculing you for something that they
right,
have
as opposed
no
to
idea.
putting it
Lack
out. Yeah.
understanding. No insight or understanding of it.
Right.
And like
Right.
we said before, not taking the time to think about it, but flying
Mhm.
off with a judgment.
with the negative, I mean, I've had like certain old remedies that I'm like, you do what? You know how you do that? But they work, you know.
Absolutely.
So the thing is that I no longer look at what someone else tells me as let me go and put it on Facebook and let me say how crazy it sounds and let me do this. And I'm sitting back sick, sweating, and everything else because I don't want to try what someone else has tried.
That's right.
You know, or I don't want to look at, I looked at like a couple of things, you know, that go on, and you have to say to yourself, well, how is this parent dealing with this?
Yeah.
Or how is this person, bubbly person, great personality, just lost her husband, and the first thing she's thinking of is tomorrow I got to sell my jewelry because it's Christmas. How you getting through this? How, you know, what are you doing to in the quiet time?
Right.
When no one's buying jewelry,
That's it.
you've got grief that you're going through.
But see, some people try to avoid that quiet time and try to just churn the action, keep churning, keep going.
Right. So I think that and the discovery of who you are is like the most important thing to having any kind of footprint.
Yeah.
You know, any kind of footprint. We have to begin to realize that we each have a just like we have, you know, the what is it, the DNA, just like we have our own, you know, the veins in our hands and the way that fingerprints and you know, everything about us is unique, so unique that they can identify you just by those things. Why do we not create our own identity? What are we afraid of?
Yeah. Of that, who we are.
There's a whole slew of things people are afraid of.
Yeah.
They're afraid of, like you just said, the judgment of others. They're afraid of not fitting in. I know with me, when I went through my spiritual deconversion process, there's a whole fear of, okay, I'm no longer going to be a part of this community that I've been a part of my whole life. My family might shun me. My friends, you know, my friend group could change. People are going to see me differently.
Yeah.
People are afraid of having to walk the path of newness. Because if I accept that I've been, you know, engaging in some sort of faulty behavior, moving forward means I got to do something different consistently now.
Right.
And, you know, people are afraid of that. They're afraid of the responsibility that comes with knowing better.
Yeah.
So let's hit them with this. And I do mean hit. Because when I saw it, I said, woo, okay.
It's a jam.
What is the title and the purpose? And wait a minute, the part that got me was it's a self-help book, y'all. It's a self-help book.
Well, you know.
But it's a self-help book. When I saw the title, I laughed to myself because I know you. I laughed to myself, and then I said, you know what? Don't we all say that when we're going into the era of change?
Very much so.
Don't we all pretty much say, you know what? Them, you, it, you know, what's next? What was? How it is? You know, we instantly go through the you know, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. And when you get tired of being tired,
that's it.
We come up with the title. Here we go.
Maybe this is backwards, but one of these days
it looks right. It looks right.
Yes.
Ending the gender wars for good.
Yeah.
Let's put that battle down. Let's put that battle to rest.
That's right.
Let's stop all of the nonsense, because after thinking about it, I said to myself, okay, this has been a battle from the very start. And a lot of the things and decisions that are made are based on that battle. And just say that we did give the equal opportunity to the genders that there was no look to be dominant or look to be or supposed to be, would that be good? Would that be what would suffice?
Well, I think that it's very important that we put on our seeker hat and go deep into
Mhm.
a study of what what we know so far about human history. And I always say what we think we know, because we can never know for certain. But there is a large body of knowledge out there, anthropological, historical studies that give us an understanding of the fact that before, I guess you could say, the advent of agriculture around 10,000 BC, before patriarchal religions took center stage in the
Mhm.
spiritual world, we had a world where there was where the feminine was respected alongside the masculine when it came to our construct of what God was. You
Mhm.
Peoples
Mhm.
all over the world who had mythologies and spiritual systems whereby they respected the feminine and the masculine aspect of God.
Mhm.
So I think that humans already have a very long and tried and true history of not gender equality, because we're not the same, but
Right.
gender
Mhm.
equity. And a lot of what I talk about in the book and what I talk about in my content around this topic is about helping us remember what it was like before women were reduced to second class citizens around the world, before
Mhm.
the idea of the goddess was destroyed through war and strategic rape and all of these things that have existed in the world that have come onto the scene to limit feminine
Mhm.
power.
Mhm. Why,
Um,
why do you think the war exists?
I'm still trying to figure that out, but I think
Mhm.
that at the end of the day, it was just too tempting of a power grab to ignore. I think that it's the same reason we have white supremacy, the same reason why we have, to a large extent, economic greed and capitalism run amok,
Mhm.
because wherever there is a widely recognized vulnerability, people see an opportunity. Okay, these women, they may have, I'm thinking this is what they were thinking historically. These women, we see them as powerful. They can have the babies, they're the seductresses and they're beautiful and they can capture our hearts, but they're not as strong as we are. So there's
Right,
an
right. So they
opportunity.
can't do this. Yeah, you can't
Right.
do
So
this.
so
You
we see,
know.
and
Mhm.
who knows? Historically, there may have been a time where women took advantage of some strength that they had, that, on the world stage, maybe there was a time when women did the same thing to some extent. I don't know, where, I can't go back 20,000
Right,
years
right, right.
on the
And
proven
you
and know for
you might
sure.
not find the truth. And you might not find the
Exactly.
truth,
Exactly. We may
because
never know.
because behind closed doors, I think that's where that term behind every good man is a good woman or
Mhm.
better woman or the best woman or the larger woman or the brainier woman or the just stop me when y'all get ready, because we could change the verbiage
Mhm.
for anything to fit, because of the simple fact that we know that it took more than just the man's ideology
Mhm.
to
That's right.
do a lot of the things that were
Oh yeah.
done.
Oh
And
yeah.
when the man was missing, it would take a lot of the women to step up and say, well, even if it took two of us to lift this wood, we still can get it done. It just means that we have to take two people to do it. You know,
Absolutely.
we still can figure out what's necessary. So when I say, why does the war exist? I'm fully understanding what you mean by, how do we know? Because no one's going to tell the truth about
That's right.
the strength of the woman, other than the
Um,
physical strength, which every man will back down to, because they don't want to have no kids. They don't want to have no pain.
Come
They not doing the monthly thing. They not
on.
they ain't going through the flashes.
Yeah.
I can remember a guy on our job. he was having such bad flashes. And we were telling him, the females were teasing him, but we were telling him, you need to go to the doctor because you could be
Yeah.
having menopause. You could be having, and he's like, no, women have that. Women have that. And it was so funny. We had to overhear a conversation with the men where he was telling them that his doctor told him that, yes, men do have.
Yes, andropause.
They do
Wow.
have it. They do have it. And that, yes, some men have it, just like women.
Definitely.
You have it worse than most
Different degrees.
men do on a different level. So here's medication,
There you go.
And he was so upset because we had been telling him the different things. Well, we do this and we do that. I'm not doing that. That's a woman's, And he just didn't understand that, okay, your makeup may be a little different,
Right.
but you still have the same thing with the guys that didn't believe that they could have breast cancer.
That's it.
You know what I mean? They just did not believe that this could be the same thing.
A lot of men suffer with low testosterone. It's the same kind of situation.
It's the same type
Reach a
thing.
certain age, and you go through these different hormonal
Different
changes.
mood changes
Yep.
and everything else. So why does the war exist? Do we feed into the
Absolutely.
promotion of that?
We absolutely do. It's the
Okay.
same reason, in the same way that this is a really good example on the world stage right now, particularly here in the U.S. Why do poor people who don't have very much to gain from a particular political movement attached to it? Because there is a sense of supremacy. There is just an ideology of supremacy that comes along with it. So while you have some women who, they may ultimately suffer under some of the patriarchal ideals, they go along with it because maybe they're benefiting because they have a man in their life who is supporting them to some extent, or maybe they were just taught it. It's just their tradition. This is what they know, and anything that goes against that status quo, they're used to hearing people criticize it or say that it's a bad thing. For a lot of people, feminism is a four-letter word. I personally don't consider myself a feminist. I like to consider myself a womanist, like a lot of the Black women in the 60s and 70s did. Because I feel, and this speaks to the part of my title that says Ending the Gender Wars for Good, because I feel that, yes, there are many aspects of this thing that need to be addressed in a way that's going to make some men upset. But at the same time, my goal is not to keep us divided. My goal is not to usurp male power by making the feminine the supremacist. That's just another side of the same coin.
The same thing, right?
I think that was one of the fatal errors of feminism, was that so many women came out of that movement feeling like men were the enemy. Men are not the enemy. And we're not going to get rid of each other. So we have to figure out.
Learn how to get along.
We have to learn to get along.
And if we learned each other's strengths, we could be so much more powerful.
Absolutely.
If we could stop looking for the weak spot to play on and drew on the strengths that are God-given, we would be able to do, that just for general say. I posted a post this morning entitled Woman, but I thought it was so profound the way that Pastor Torres said it. She said, it was her husband that actually said it. He said, could you imagine Adam watching this whole creation thing and finding out that this is what came from his rib? He said, the word just in itself, whoa, man, and it's woman, whoa, like this is spectacular, this is fabulous, and we forget sometime just in that when it was happening, why it was happening, how it was happening, and it was for the benefit. It was not to be separated or to be belittled or to be looked at as powerless. It was to be a compliment. an addition
Mhm.
to what was already created, So a lot of times we forget all of that.
Yeah.
We forget, what was the purpose of just that in creation, that everything was done. It was complete,
Yeah.
except a woman. And when he said that, I was like, wow, that's really, really a whole different turn. Whoa, what is this I got here? How do I benefit with this? And then, the adoration and knowing that, you can be fruitful and multiply. This is how you're going to be able to do these things
Yeah.
with this woman,
And I think that that's an important part to remember, because
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with a good friend about this just the other day. He was asking me why I chose that particular title. And he asked me, well, don't you believe that women were made for men? And
made for,
I said, absolutely not. We were made for each other.
That's
But
right.
that
made
word
for,
compliment
yes.
is,
Mhm.
you said that word compliment, and I feel like we're so busy in combat that we don't realize, or we don't remember that we
Mhm.
were supposed to compliment one another.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can't compliment what you're trying to subjugate.
Mhm.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
So important.
For
Now,
sure.
do you feel that the book will help?
I think it will help for the people who are already open to it, who are already on that path. I'm looking to connect with a target, any author, y'all know any author
Mhm.
has to connect with their target audience. My
Sure.
target audience is people who are already, to some extent, even if it's just a small crack, on the path of deconstructing and rethinking these traditional ideas about marriage and about family and about love that we've been handed down. People who are at least willing to take some time and think about it and decide whether or not it actually resonates with them, if they're
Mhm.
following it out of fear,
Yeah.
out of just, because this is what I've been given, or if they would be willing to embark on a new path of expansion and
Mm,
recognizing what love or what partnership could be, or recognizing what single life could be, because
Right.
everybody's not meant to be married. Recognizing
mm,
that singleness is also you are still a valid and worthwhile, worthy human being, even if that is the path that you do not ultimately take. I think that it will help to reinforce
Mhm.
these ideas for some people. I think it will help to also people who are still thinking and still trying to formulate their own ideas. I think that it can help to give clarity to those folks as well.
that's great. Now, when will the book be? I know you're in the promotional stage and everything else. Is the book actually out?
It's not out yet. It's going to be released January 7th of
Okay.
Woo!
2026. Yep.
Okay.
All
So
Okay.
it's
right.
coming down.
Okay.
Starting out the new
Okay.
year right.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yes. Start your year off right.
That's
Yeah.
it.
You're right.
And just
Right.
and just in time to knock Cupid right on his behind.
That's right.
Exactly. Exactly. Come in right. Come in
So we
right.
coming for
You
you.
know, Cupid can come along, but
Yes.
he's got to come correct this
He got
time.
to
Right,
come
right, right.
correct.
That's
That's
right.
right.
That's right.
Now, one of your favorite sayings is joy is life.
Yes.
So tell me, and I understand it, when things are good, they're good. And when we celebrate, we celebrate. But how do we find joy when life be lifing?
Mhm.
Well, what I like to tell people is, first of all, we have to remember that joy is not a feeling. Joy is not happiness. Joy is a habit that we
Right.
cultivate.
Yes.
Joy is the Bible says the joy of the Lord is our strength. I
Hmm.
remember that from time that I was young, you know, and
Yeah.
I have always believed that joy is a weapon. It's a tool in our toolbox. It's a
Right.
weapon in our arsenal when life gets hard.
Yeah.
So reframing it that way helps us to recognize that it is essential no matter what stage of life you're in. It can help you maintain that even keel mentally, no matter what's going
Yes.
on. And it's a matter of I feel like joy is founded upon you have to lay a foundation of gratitude.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Mm-hmm.
have that foundation of gratitude, of remembering, okay, no matter what kind of craziness is going on in my life right now, okay, at least I'm breathing. Okay, at least my loved
Right.
ones my loved
Right.
ones here with me, or I have food on my table, or I still got this job that I can, help pay my
Right.
bills with. Whatever
Right.
it is that you
Okay.
are blessed to have, the
Yeah.
foundation is the gratitude for that. And, you know, using that as a springboard to have hope for the future. Those things
Right.
help to create the
Yeah.
resilience that is that common thread of joy that
Mm.
you bring
Right.
through
Right.
whatever.
And I think that's a part of the construction, that you have to understand that a lot of times you have to let go of what the surrounding negativity may be.
That's it.
And Felice knows it well. I say it all the time, and you probably have seen it too. I had to put myself into the mindset
Mm.
of, hey, if this is it, let me get it together.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's right.
If this is not it, what am I springboarding to?
There you go.
Right.
I can't sit where I'm at right now
Right.
because mentally, I don't know which way I'm going.
Right.
Mm.
Physically, the doctor is saying this. Spiritually, my God is saying that. So I have to get all of it together, but I got to remember joy is life.
That's
That's right.
right. I love
So
that.
if in it all, I saw that and I said, wow, okay, that was the root of my being. Okay, I understand that totally. But a lot of times we forget that although life is lifing, the joy of it is you're in life.
There you go.
You're there.
That's
You
it.
know,
Yes.
you got to find joy in it. Well, one of the joys is that you're able to be able to look at it.
That's right.
So the other thing that you said that was really, really well was follow your bliss to your purpose, align with your joy, and live well, which is what you just explained. You
Yeah.
know, you can't be lazy about it.
That's it.
There are sometimes you have to just look in the mirror, and I say that to my cancer squad. I call them a squad now. You know, hey, listen, sometimes you got to look in the mirror and say, you know what, today was today, tomorrow is tomorrow, and thank God I'm going to be here to see it.
That's right.
Sometimes it's just that simple.
Yeah.
Your pain, your anger, your anguish, all of that is going to keep you closed in.
That's
So
right.
find the bliss. Find the bliss. Find the happiness in it.
That's right. And I, one thing that I tell people with that is this is why it's so important for, parents out there or people who are raising children to try to make room for whatever it is that your child is expressing a passion for or an interest in, and
Yeah.
allow them to cultivate that to some degree and show an interest in it. It's so important. I've come across so many people that talk about experiences where nobody in their life, no parent took an interest in their interest. And then they spend a half a lifetime trying to circle back
Yeah.
to that thing that God placed in
Yeah.
them from the time
Right.
that they were a child, that was a clue to what they were supposed to be doing with their life. So if we can be honest with ourselves about what am I really passionate about, what really gives me joy, that's one of the biggest clues that you have to your purpose. And that
Right.
will, once you align with that, you can, help to cultivate
It
a better life.
automatically comes in. It makes
That's
it so
right.
much so easy. And then
Right.
sometimes we wonder later on, well, how did we get here? If you do
Yep.
your reflection, like you said, that self-reflection of looking back, even as mothers, the three of us are mothers. You look back at some of the things your kid did when they were little. It kind of gives you a clue to where they are now,
That's
because
it.
you're going to find little things that they did that they still do,
Yeah.
or their attitude or their mood swings or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes those little clues are right there.
That's
Oh, yeah.
right.
But I want to tell our audience that you can get in touch with Joy on her website, www.inanna hyphen, don't forget the hyphen now.
Yep.
Don't connect it, joy.com, and at info@inannajoy.com. So you can
I'm sorry, you want to make sure with the email address that the hyphen should be in there as well. The Inanna
okay.
hyphen
Well,
Joy. Yep.
let me fix that, because we don't want them
Thank
saying they got the wrong
you.
address from here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So we want to make sure. And then of course we also want to have the Gmail address.
Mhm.
You have that as well. So those of you that are looking to find out, exactly what's going on and what she's doing, and that new book that is coming out, we want to make sure that we're in touch
Yeah,
to make
that one.
sure, yes, to make sure that your book and everything else is, we have the information correct for that. So we want to make sure that we have these things correct for you. Felice, you want to give that last question
Well,
and let her know what
she
what what
she
what we're
answered it,
doing.
and I was paying close attention, and she so answered it. But I just want to make two comments right quick.
Okay,
So
okay.
she is our returning Joy. So thank you for that.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes,
And,
yes.
and speaking of joyous life, we are ending with joy.
Yes, yes. End of the
End of
year
the
with
year. That's
joy.
right.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, so I know that we're embracing that here on I've been Visions and Conversations. Um, so this, so you answered this question, but I would just maybe, maybe I'll change it up. But here's the question that we normally ask at the end, because your gift, you live out loud, and I love that, and I thank you so much for that. For using your gift for the betterment of this world. Um, so, but when we talk to all of our wonderful guests on here, you're living the purpose for your life, and that is great. But we need to be responsible for that with that, right? Because we don't want people to just say, "Oh, see this," we're living. This person is living this fabulous life
Right.
without the responsibility of themselves, right?
Right.
So all of that to say, we ask all of you great, wonderful people, how do you fill your cup before it gets empty or when it gets empty? And you may have a different answer for that, but I think, uh,
Well, I did talk about my quiet day.
yes.
Sunday is, I really do go out of my way to protect that as a day of rest
Hmm.
and replenishment, um, fasting as a tool of quiet in the mind and the spirit fills my cup, because in those moments the spirit can come in, and
Mhm.
it's a reset. It's a quiet reset for a person like me who's always just going. It is the quiet reset that I need.
And
And
especially being a social critical slayer.
yeah,
Mhm.
but I will tell you that fills my cup to a large degree also, because that is me walking in alignment with my
Sure.
purpose. That is
Beautiful.
my bliss.
And I think that's
Love
important for
that.
everyone to understand going into the new year.
Hmm.
Find your purpose.
Yeah.
Don't be scared of your purpose. If
Yeah.
something is nudging you and nudging you and nudging you, if it's a business, do research on it. Find
Right.
out what it takes. Sometimes we think, well, I don't have the finances. I don't have the know-how. I don't have the this. Take it in bits and pieces.
Hmm.
Take and reflect back on the things that you do follow. If you follow a certain social media site, iPen Visions, if you follow us, and you've seen someone on our show who is doing something that you are interested in, and they're telling you, that's the reason why we want them to tell you about their journey. That's the reason that we want you to know that, yes, they started out this way, but then they became that way, because we all will think it's all glam and glitter,
Sure.
and
Yes.
it's not.
It's
So
a
Hmm.
journey.
you need to know about the journey.
It's
So
life.
if Joy has given you any insight on how to change your spiritual walk to connect to your purpose, we're not interested in what your religion is. We're not interested in all of that. We want you to spiritually connect with who you are going into 2026.
Hmm.
Get ready to don't reconnect.
Hmm.
Don't go back and look for what was good in April. or what was good in 2024,
Mm-hmm.
don't reconnect. We're looking for you to make a connection for 2026.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll hear more from Felice and I about projects that'll be coming up, events that we will be indulging in and trying to make, a move with. But we want you to start with self.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy being, our year bang, all of that other stuff, you gotta begin to say, hey, wait a minute, because what I found out even today was, you remember when we used to yell, I can't wait to be an adult.
Mm.
No,
Remember
take
when
that
we used to yell that, I
Yeah.
can't wait to be an adult.
Mhm.
Now being older, slow down, slow down. I'm waiting for time. Just slow down. You're going too fast. Things is happening kind of rapidly now. It'll
Warp
be
speed.
it'll be another birthday, and
Mhm.
you running around still trying to figure out your goal, your purpose,
Yeah.
your why. These are the things we talk about on iPen Visions.
Mhm.
We want to
Mhm.
know your goal, your purpose,
Yeah.
what your journey looks like.
That's
And Joy,
right.
we want to thank you for telling us what your journey is. Continued blessings. We appreciate you as
Thank
well as our other guests that have been on this year. And we look forward to you coming back.
Absolutely. I look forward to coming back. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for having me.
we want to know, hey, did we slay a couple of things in there?
Yes.
Did someone get the message? We want to know. We want to know.
Yeah.
We want to work.
And I just also want to let everybody out there know too, in addition to the book, there are 4 journals that accompany the book that you can learn about on my website that will be coming out on the same day that can help you in that deconstruction process and in the process of honing in on what your purpose is.
Yes,
All
we
right.
need all of that. So I
Yeah.
want to say good night, folks, and thanks for hanging. We're going to come up with something. Felice done threw another ball out there, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna catch it. I'm gonna catch it. So
Yeah.
we're going to see what we can do, even if it's a shenanigans before we open up the next chapter. But there is another chapter. We're looking forward to the new year coming, and we're looking forward to guests like Joy coming back and letting us know where they are on their path, because that's what it's all about. We have visions. I pen visions. So I want to say good night. Thank you for joining in, and reach out. Look for the book.
And Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas,
Yes,
Happy New
blessings.
Year.
Yeah.
Happy Kwanzaa, happy all that.
Yes. Have a
Absolutely.
good night.
Good night.
Good night.